Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Art of Photography. My name is Ted Forbes. We're going to continue talking about websites for photography today. And this is kind of a multi-part series we're doing. Last episode of The Art of Photography, we talked about building a portfolio website. And today we're going to talk about something a little different. I want to talk about photoblogging. Now, photoblogging is something that I used to do a long time ago. It was my first photo website was a photoblog. And this was in the days before Flickr and 500px and the like. And actually, when Flickr came along, that's about the time I really lost interest in doing my blog because Flickr had a social media component built on and I was meeting other photographers and I was really getting a lot out of that. And for various reasons I've decided this year I'm going to go back to doing photoblogging. Now my photoblog is at blur.nu. It's kind of an unusual URL. I'll put links to the show notes in the show notes to all the stuff I'm talking about today. So if you go to theartofphotography.tv you can find all that stuff. But anyway, what I'm talking about here, photoblogs, and the reason I'm going back to it, I'm not canceling out of Flickr, don't worry. I love Flickr for what it is. I think it's one of my favorites. However, there's something in my own work that I wanted to get back to that I missed from the days when I did photoblogging that I realized that I wasn't getting out of a lot of the web stuff that I'm doing these days. And mainly that is the ability to look at my work in a timeline type perspective. So a blog post typically is a journal type situation. So rather than putting a portfolio of your best work in there, I mean, certainly the idea is to go do the best work that you can do. But more importantly, what you want to be able to do is view that work. It may be a little more casual, it may be more experimental. It's not something that I necessarily would send a client to, but it's something that I want to be able to look at my work in a continuum. And the reason I want to be able to do that is sometimes I found myself, I've gotten into kind of a creative idea or something that sparks an image, and I make that image, and sometimes you move along from it and you forget some of the things that kind of got you excited about it, or because you moved along and you're working on other things. And to be able to see, be able to go back and maybe catch some of those ideas that needed further development, and then also obviously the success part of it would be to see ideas get developed over time in new work. And so the photoblog is just that. Different people treat them as different things. Sometimes they're just kind of like a slice of life journal of what a photographer sees day to day. Sometimes they can be project-based. Sometimes they can be really conceptual, like people who do the 365 photo projects where you take a photo every day for an entire year, and those are really hard to do. But anyway, that could be a photo blog. And so there's a lot of reasons to do them. In coming back to photoblogging, when I had mine earlier, there weren't a lot of options that you had. You had movable type, which is still around, and it's actually not a bad platform. But since then, I've adapted to go back to WordPress. And I'm going to come back and talk about WordPress in a second, because I think that it has a lot to offer, particularly for a blog type setup. If you're looking to do just a quick, easy photo blog, or any kind of blog for that matter, there's some services that have come along in the meantime that have really blown the doors open in terms of usability, ease, all that kind of thing. The first one I've talked about on the show before, which is Posterous. And Posterous, again, links in the show notes. I've used Posterous, I love it. Posterous allows you to set up a very quick blog, and the kind of the really cool thing I think about Posterous is you can email posts. So rather than having to go into a web browser and type all this stuff, I can be out using my cell phone and get my shots that way, and I can just simply email them to my Posterous email address, and they will display on the site. The other thing that's cool about Posterous is it will feed into other sites. So if you have a WordPress site or something like that, you can get to where it auto posts. You can even tie it into Flickr, Facebook, Twitter, all those things. So basically sending one email to my Posterous email address, and it goes and posts into all these locations, and it handles media very well. So that's one recommendation that I've really loved myself. Another one that I've also used, but probably less extensively, is Tumblr. And Tumblr is awesome. And I actually would recommend using Tumblr for a photo blog because it has a view where you're allowed to kind of go in and see all your work kind of on one big page in a timeline type fashion, which fulfills exactly what I'm talking about. Tumblr handles other media well. There's a social layer that's built into Tumblr. And both Tumblr and Posterous are really good options if you're considering doing a photo blog and you want something that, one, is free. Both the services are free. Two, it's easy to use. Three, it's versatile. So there's a number of good reasons why you would want to use one of those. WordPress is the other one that I want to talk about, and I'm going to show you my blog and why I'm using WordPress to set up. The main thing is you can develop templates definitely in Tumblr pretty well, to an extent in Posterous, but WordPress has been around a while, and your content is kind of protected in that form, especially if you're doing a blog. That's one thing I like about it. The other thing is it's highly customizable, and if you've got some coding experience and you're familiar with WordPress, you can code your own themes. And the theme that I've done for my blog, as soon as I work out some bugs in it, I actually would like to make it available as a download. So if you want to just use it on your own site, you can do that. It's kind of very minimal in design. I'm about to show it to you, and that's kind of my point on that. So anyway, so come on over to the computer and let's talk a little bit about blogging. So we're looking at WordPress here, and I'm going to show you the options that you have when you do a WordPress blog. Right now, we are at WordPress.com, and there's essentially two versions that I'm going to talk about today. There's WordPress.com, and then there's also WordPress.org. .com is the most basic, so if you are totally new to WordPress, this is a great place to start. They will host your blog for free, and they will give you a free blog, so the whole thing won't cost you a dime. There's two services. There's a free service, and there's also a paid service. And the paid service allows you to do a few more things. It gives you a little more storage if you start getting a lot of photos in here. You get options for doing what they call video press if you need video hosting. It allows you to do a custom domain name, so if you want yourname.com hooked up to it, and I think it runs about $100 a year. And you know, if you're a power user, it's probably not a great option, but I would recommend starting here. And if you're not familiar with WordPress at all, it's the exact same option as the downloadable version, which I'm going to show you in a second. But this is a wonderful place to start. If you go to WordPress.org, you can download the WordPress software and run it on your own server. Now, this does require a couple things. It requires a domain name, so you need to get yourname.com. It also requires a web host, and so you need to contact a hosting company. So whether that be somebody like GoDaddy that you register your name through, or it be somebody like Media Temple, who I use. There's a number of options that you've got. DreamHost, there's other things, but you do need a web host to put this, and you will download the software. There's a README file that gives you instructions, and you upload it to your web server. Again, this is a lot different than Tumblr or Posterous, but it is also very open. This is an open source project, so a lot of people are working on and constantly developing WordPress, which is nice because security issues, things like that, rather than just trying to build your own blog from scratch. You know, people smarter than me have figured this out, so that's what I like to do. So once you've downloaded WordPress, you can upload it, and this is actually what my blog looks like, and I'll kind of tear this apart and talk about it. And this is blur.nu, and so I have hosting here, and I've got a custom name, and this is the template that I designed around this. And so my idea, like I said, I wanted to show my work in a large continuum of time. So, you know, the newest photos are near the top and the older photos are down below. And I wanted it to be very simple. So at the home page, there's not a lot of text or anything. You're just provided with a series of thumbnails. And if I click on one of these, it will open and these go full screen. And this is something that was really important to me because I wanted to experiment with full bleed images. And so there's some CSS and some JavaScript written in here. So if I resize the page, the image always resizes and you always see the entire image. What is interesting is you are changing the ground size of the image. So I'm finding that certain images work, others don't. I have coded options in here. So for instance, let me see if I can remember which one. Yeah, okay, so like this one of these apples. This is actually a wet plate. And I scanned the whole plate, but I wanted these corners. They were really important to see. And if I have that go full bleed, so there are options in here for displaying your photos at smaller sizes or using what they call full bleed, where it bleeds off the corners. The other thing that's cool that I put in here is if I click on the toolbar down here, I have a Get Info button, and I can actually write and blog about these images that are in here. Okay, and so you know, pretty basic stuff. And the other thing that I did is let's go back to the home page. I coded some keyboard shortcuts in here. And I realize this is a screencast and you can't see what I'm doing, but at any time I can use the left and right arrow keys on the keyboard to move between the images. I can use the up arrow to return to the index, and then some little things. I use the letter I to get the info and stuff like that. So for instance, if I hit up, it takes me back home. And if I go to any one of these images, let's say, here's the cat drinking away. I can go here, and if I'm, you know, I know you can't see this, but if I push the right arrow on my keyboard, it will advance to the next image, and so on and so forth. If I want to go back, I can hit the left arrow and keep going. And so anyway, this whole thing is experimental. The whole idea is the design is complete, and now I'm going to concentrate on experimenting with my images. So that's the front end, or what the visitor sees when somebody comes to your website. Now let's look at the back end. And basically, if you go to a special URL here, for WordPress, and you log in, and I'm already logged in, so it will take me there. And this is what they call the dashboard, and this is the back end. This is the content management part of your website. And I'm going to kind of quickly go through here. What I will do is when I get a few bugs worked out that still need to be addressed on Blur, I'll put the template up so you guys can download it and tear it apart and do what you want with it. So anyway, I'll talk you through here. And this is the same dashboard if you have the free .com version of WordPress that's hosted with them. You still get this. In fact, they give you a couple more options that are kind of nice in there. WordPress, if you look at the left-hand side of the screen here, this is your main index, and this takes you through all the areas of your site. So you have posts, and so if I view all posts, these are all the posts that I've made, and they all have titles and descriptions. You can put them into categories. I'm not interested in that for this, but you can do it. Below posts, there is what they call media, and if I go to my media library, here's all the images that I've uploaded. And so you can see that this is separating your content out. So I have a posting, and that post has an image that's attached to it, each one. I can post additional images to it. It's a little more advanced. Links I'm not using. In a traditional blog, you might want to link to other web pages. Pages I'm using, and they're not very many. I think I have an About page and a keyboard shortcuts page, and that's it. But if I want to continue to create pages, I do it here, and that's reflected in the navigation, and it auto-updates, and it's very nice. The other strong thing, there's comments, and I'm not interested in doing comments this time around on my Photoblog. I have Flickr for that and that social element. This is really something that I'm just it's experimenting in public, so I'm not really interested in doing comments at this point. It's just not something I'm going after this time around, but it's there if you want it on a blog. If you go under Appearance, and this is one of the strong things about WordPress, and you can see already there's a bug because I'm missing an image. But you can develop your own themes, but WordPress calls the design the theme, and it comes with 2 themes installed, and you can go get more. And there's tons of themes on the internet that you can browse for free. You can install them right here. WordPress is really strong in that regard. So what it's doing is it's separating your content from the design. And I think that's so important because you may get down the road and a year or two down, you decide, oh gosh, I really don't like this design. It's dated. I'm tired of it, whatever. You want to redesign your website. Well, this keeps you from having to rebuild the entire thing. You simply rebuild your layout pages, put them in here, turn it on, and you're done. Yeah, it's that easy. They also have widgets, and if your theme supports them, I don't have any in this particular theme, and there's an editor in here too, so you can work on that. Plugins are another big part of WordPress, and I have some that I run mainly for search engine optimization, security reasons, and then also I have one that catches spam, so if there are robots out there that know how to use WordPress, and so they're not actually people, and they will come spam your blog. So it's a good idea to at least get some plugins that will help combat that a little bit. You can have multiple users on here, so if I wanted to do a blog with somebody else, 2 people could certainly contribute to a blog. There's also some tools in here for import and export, and then you have all your settings. I want to show you just real quick. I'll do some separate videos on settings. I just want to show some of the options in here that's particularly friendly with images. If I go down to settings and then I select media, it allows me to define in here how big I want the media to be. So what it does is this. If I upload an image into WordPress, let's say I'm creating a new blog post, what it does is it creates rendition sets, or basically different versions of that file. So if I upload a big JPEG image, it's going to make a thumbnail size that will crop to a square 120 by 120. And I use that on the home page. So if we go back to the home page, you can see that when I upload an image, that's the version it uses. Okay, so it's actually versioning your images. So it makes the 120 by 120 square. I'm not using it in this particular layout, but it has the option for 3 of them. So there's a 500 by 500. And then I'm making that large image. The maximum width is 1024 and the maximum height is 1024 as well. So anyway, so you can embed from other media, etc. And anyway, all good stuff. And anyway, I highly recommend WordPress. It's very image friendly. To do a portfolio site, it does require some tweaking, as some people have mentioned on Twitter, and I agree with that. But I think for a photo blog, it can be easily tweaked into something that works really nicely. So there you go, Photoblogs. Several different options there. Tumblr, WordPress, Posterous. Find one, use it. Get out there, put your work up. You technically, I guess, could use Facebook for something like that if you wanted to do a social media thing. But, I know the blog is not a portfolio site, so you treat it a little bit differently, but for me, I'm really anal retentive and I really care about the quality of my images and how they're displayed, and that's kind of why I've opted for WordPress. It's definitely not the easiest option of the bunch, but I think it's the most rewarding and it's the most versatile in terms of what you can do with it. And I think, finally, another thing, it's not as big a problem with Posters and Tumblr, but those services own your content, okay? So it's harder to pull that content out if you wanted to very simply move it down to another location or a new blog. What I like about WordPress is I can move the location, I can move the blog, and as long as it understands a WordPress import, I'm good. Generally, I'm probably using WordPress, so that's not a problem either. But you own your content, and WordPress kind of stays out of the way. So that's, it's just a matter of opinion and what you want to do with it. But anyway, that's all for today. That's photoblogging. Get out there, make one, post photos, experiment, get to know your work, and get better as a photographer. So anyway, once again, this has been The Art of Photography, and thank you for watching.